3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from 3 Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. This is season 3, and today we are going to talk about Tales of the Jedi, focusing on the dark side. Debatable if it's really the dark side. Focusing on the Count Dooku episodes, episode 2, 3, and 4, Justice Choices, the Sith Lord. But before we get into it, we would like to welcome our guest for today, Trey Mitchell from Skywalking Through the League.
Hi, yeah, very glad to have you to be here. You guys can call this episode Triad of the Force.
That's
easy
I like that.
Lord. That's a good one.
Thank you. Yeah, no, very happy to be here.
Very excited to have you, one of my new best friends from Celebration.
Yeah.
So it's always good.
Star Wars Celebration brings people together.
It does.
If it causes hangovers.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the happy hangovers. Those are the hangovers. So you're just like, damn, that was worth it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bittersweet thing, right? Because like we met in person there, and like we were having a good time, and now we have to limit ourselves to seeing each other through little boxes on computer screens. It's kind of like but it's good to know that we still have some beautiful friendships made. It's about the friends we made along the way. And
it is. It's such a tease that like you get to see all these people that you like in person, and you get to meet people, and then it's just over so quickly. And that's like the sad part of it. It's like so much fun, but then it just crashes, and then you crash, and then maybe you cry on your drive back to the airport the next morning. You know, who knows? Maybe
like that. But we've been doing like a secret campaign, Chase and I, to like maybe get you to relocate. So we'll see how that goes.
Taking a trip to Chicago next month, so I'm excited for that.
It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. I need to call Chase so we can figure out what nefarious things we're gonna get into.
Oh my gosh,
in the
shenanigans.
Yes, shenanigans, many. They won't be as wild as Scotty shenanigans. None of us are gonna dress up like Paul Stanley. Although maybe Chase will. Who knows?
Do you see he met Paul Stanley?
I saw that because he's at the Kiss cruise, right?
He went on a Kiss cruise. I hadn't heard from him in a week. I thought he died, and he kind of did. He died and came back a different person because he met all the members from Kiss. So,
oh crap! So he must be on cloud 9.
Oh yeah.
He's got his Twitter persona is going to be even more insufferable now.
The random pictures of monkeys and dolphins will never end.
No. But we could talk about these things and make Nani jealous. Yeah. Until
I'm super jealous over here because I wasn't able to make it out of him. But okay, it's fine.
Maybe London. Although Trey can't be at London, I think. Right.
I'll be at Paul Stanley's best friend.
Officiating. Maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, Trey. Yeah. We talked a little bit how we made a celebration, but. Why don't you tell us? This is the first time here with Triad of the Force, so like for anyone who's listening, who might not know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves, especially about your Star Wars journey, how you've gotten to the place where you're at. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? When did you first connect with Star Wars?
Yeah, so Star Wars has sort of always been in my life. I remember as a little kid watching the prequels, and I think the first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters, it was either Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. I'm not sure if I saw Attack of the Clones. Yes, Goose wearing Attack of the Clones shirt. Great. I have definitely come around for that movie. Like I really like that movie now. I kind of in the dark days I was like, oh, I don't like this movie. It was terrible. And now I'm like, one of the characters that we're going to be talking about today, Dooku, is I think really, really good and really misunderstood like his importance in all of this. So always liked Star Wars as a kid. I remember thinking I was Anakin for a second, and then like coming to that realization that he was Darth Vader because I didn't put 2 and 2 together. So Revenge of the Sith really crushed me as a 7-year-old boy. But loved Star Wars as a kid. I remember for me, like Star Wars trading cards were a big deal. I really liked those. Kind of random. But then Star Wars sort of went away for me until Disney bought it. And then when Disney bought Star Wars, I was energized. I remember picking up the Thrawn trilogy books because I wasn't completely, I didn't totally understand what canon was at that point, and I read those books and I was like, wow, this is cool. I didn't realize like there was more of this. Right. And then, you know, we get closer to The Force Awakens. I remember where I was when that first trailer came out, and then I'm like looking up on YouTube like Star Wars The Force Awakens trailer breakdown. That's how I find like Star Wars Explained and like other channels like that. And then closer towards when The Force Awakens came out, I realized that I wanted to talk about Star Wars. And this was 2015. This was before I think podcasts were really big. But one of my favorite Star Wars books, Lost Stars, I read it and I was like, this is the greatest thing. I need to talk to someone about it. Found a guy on YouTube and just like commented, and we started becoming friends. And then we started a Star Wars podcast in 2015. It was called Force Talk, and had that for about 2 years, and that was fun. Just The Force Awakens was such a beautiful time in my life. It was my senior year of high school, and I was just like so excited for the future. There was more Star Wars coming out. I loved The Force Awakens. I think I saw it like 12 times in theaters. It was just like my whole personality. I got a whole page in my senior yearbook about Star Wars, and it was just me. So that was amazing. Yeah. So The Force Awakens was a really big deal to me. It really sort of put me on my journey now. And then, so I had that podcast for a few years. And then my current co-host, Bill Sheehy, and I started our podcast, Skywalking Through the League, in 2018. We're both big basketball fans and Star Wars. So at first we were trying to do Star Wars and basketball. And we kind of just abandoned the basketball, but kept the logo because it's a cool logo of him dunking the Death Star on me. So we kept that, and we've been doing that for a few years now. And I'm pretty involved on Twitter. I like to talk Star Wars on Twitter, and that's how I met a lot of my friends. And that's kind of where I am now. So I've really enjoyed basically everything in the Disney era. There's a few things I like less than others, but I've really happy that Disney bought Star Wars, and I'm happy with all the friends that I've made along the way. And that's kind of the short spiel.
I mean, that's wonderful. I identify with that story a lot because it's very similar to mine, I think. And I totally agree with the whole Disney thing. I really do not understand all the naysaying around the web sometimes with like all the Disney content, because I'm just like, this would have never happened with George Lucas. We'd never have had, one, the amount of stuff, and then two, the variety, because, you know, between the animation and then all the live action stuff, and especially now with Andor, seeing like the different tones that we're getting from all these different stories, I'm just like, this is like the best thing. And without even mentioning comic books and all the novels and everything else. I think the only thing that's kind of worse now with Disney than it was with George was the video games. But hopefully,
I'm a huge fan of Star Wars Battlefront 2. I played that game when the pandemic hit. So many hours.
And over and over.
The character we're talking about today, Dooku, there's a skin in that where he wears
pajamas.
And I call him Quarantine Dukes. He just like looks like he's like, that's just what he's walking around his apartment or his castle or whatever. But the video games, I guess the only one I haven't loved was the Starfighter one that came out.
Squadrons.
Recently. That was just hard. That was really hard.
I didn't even buy it because I was just like, not because like it didn't look good, but I was just like, it's first person, and I like to do the third person so I can see the shit.
It was very challenging. I kind of gave up halfway through the story.
It was too, from what I read about it, it's a little too real in terms of like the controls and like how the ships work. And I'm just like, hey man, I'm stupid. I don't need to. I just want to shoot shit. I don't need to learn how to fly an actual starfighter. So I ignored it. But that's interesting because when we were thinking about doing like these Tales of the Jedi episodes, we were like, okay, are we gonna split them up? They're so short that we might as well just do one episode
the
for
whole
all
thing.
of them. But then we were like, okay, but it's dark side, light side, so let's just split it and just talk about the 3 episodes about Dooku, the 3 episodes about Ahsoka. And we were like, okay, well, let's figure out who the most appropriate people for these topics will be. And for Ahsoka, we were like, okay, Brian from Pink Milk, he's a massive Ahsoka stan, so that's easy. But then we were like, who the fuck are we gonna call for Dooku? So like, I'm not so familiar about Dooku stans out there. I'm sure that they exist, but then I was going through Twitter that exact same day, and I saw your post, about Dooku, and I'm like, well, there we go. Like manna from heaven. It was serendipitous. I'm like, okay, perfect. New friends and new Dooku stands here that we can
That may or
invite
may not be
someone.
holding a Dooku lightsaber at this exact moment.
May or may not be holding a Dooku.
Please
Yep.
show us. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Glorious.
Oh yes.
Oh yes.
That is one thing. Like, cause I agree. When I watched Attack of the Clones for the first time, I loved it because I was in my early teens, so like I was just like blown away, especially by Yoda. But then as I got older and started to read all the online discourse about the prequels and how the prequels suck, and then kind of trying to be edgier. Like I did shun particularly Attack of the Clones. I remember
I think everyone went through that phase.
I was an anti for that movie. There's still things that I don't sympathize as well with. But one thing that I think always was cool was Dooku's hilt. Like that was
just it looked
just
so
the
different.
curve.
Yeah,
the way he always held it, like
that scene when he does like
very wrist. He does a lot of wrist stuff with his like movements of it. Very
it's so cool. And the fact that it's Christopher Lee, and what can we say about Christopher Lee that has not been said?
Now with these episodes that we got to see the hilt again before it went red, it was like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
We need to get you the new blue one, because I saw that Disney shop is
it's kind of cool. Like I know the Disney one, they have the Ben Solo one from before he became Kylo. I think it's cool when they like have those, like because they haven't really been. The Ben one is only in the flashbacks and the Last Jedi, but it's still cool to like be able to own that, to have it. And that's also something under Disney that I like, is the amount of lightsabers that you can buy.
Yeah,
not enough if you ask me. Like I want them all. Like as I always had said that I would never be one of those people that would own a lightsaber, because I'm an adult. But then when on
the strange stance to take.
Well, but then the Rey Skywalker lightsaber came out, the Force Effects one, which is the one I just ignited. And
what are both of your favorite lightsabers?
Nani, go first.
That's a hard one. I mean, I've always been obsessed with Darth Maul's.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
And I think Ben's is also amazing. The first time you see that trailer and you hear the sound that's like adjoined to it igniting. I mean, I don't think I thought about it before, but I'm very dark side.
I mean, cooler. Dark side. I mean, no disrespect to the light side, but dark side is cooler. They have cookies. But
I was going to make the same joke.
Yes. Great minds think alike. But
they have chokeholds.
Hey, some people like that shit. There's a kink for everybody.
Whatever you're into.
Whatever you're into, as long as you get consent. That's the important.
Yeah.
Do not push your kink onto someone that might not enjoy it. But talking of kinks, I guess my lightsaber kink would be Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, the green
Luke's,
one. Obviously. Yeah. So I remember being a young, impressionable child and seeing Return of the Jedi and seeing that motherfucker light up that green lightsaber.
It's the sexiest one, probably. Like just the multiple elements to it. I love that one. Ahsoka's from Rebels are probably my favorite, but I didn't buy them because they were really big at Doc Ondar's. Like they were just kind of too thick. I kind of wanted them to be a little more easier to hold, and I just they're a lot more expensive because you got to buy two of them. Right. And I didn't love those ones, but in Star Wars, I think those are my favorite ones. The white Rebels ones.
The white ones, yeah.
They look cool in animation. I don't think they did like a great job translating them into live action. Which I think it's kind of maybe you guys agree or disagree with this, but like I feel like when they translate things from live action to animation, they do a really good job. But when they translate things from
in reverse, it's really
live
hard.
Action, it doesn't really feel as good. Like and this might be a hot take, but when they did like the live action Chopper, I didn't think it looked good. I just think
it's just like jarring because it's like it's something that you get used to being stylized, and then that stylized version is like what you think, and then when it's just normal, it's like, oh, this is like uncool. Like it's just kind of boxy and
So who knows? Maybe they'll for the Ahsoka series. Maybe
because there is more imagination, more freedom in animation. So
yeah,
it's more believable to see these fantastical things, and then when you try to make them real, it doesn't necessarily work the same way. So
true,
but we'll see.
We will see. And like speaking of lightsabers, High Republic has some really awesome hilts now that like I'm really really excited to because I think they're putting out a book of the High Republic lightsaber hilts, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh right, yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah, they have like the little laser cross guard thing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I want to see like the Hasbro do a line of the lights of the High Republic lightsabers because that would be really cool to see like the actual physical object instead of like all these rendered images that they've been showing so far. But it's possible because I saw Hasbro actually did like a Black Series announcement on Friday, I think it was, and they announced a couple of like comic book characters coming into like Dr. Aphra. They're gonna do an action figure for. And it's like, okay, that's good that they get characters that aren't from the
Revan's lightsaber you can buy through the Black Series. So
yes, that one looks cool. So we'll see. Maybe I'll need to just bite the bullet and just buy all the lightsabers and just accept
paying rent.
Accept my fate. Accept my fate. Stop
you just
eating.
Become General Grievous and just collect all of the lightsabers.
Some people are cat people and they just have a bunch of cats, and I'll just have a bunch of lightsabers.
You'll have lightsabers. It's fine.
It's at the end of the day that might be cheaper because you don't have to feed lightsabers. You just the one-time purchase and you're done. Cats, you have to keep feeding those fuckers and clean out their litter box. So maybe it is better for my long-term
wallet.
My long-term sanity. But anyway, people didn't come here to listen to us talk about lightsabers and cat and cleaning out litter boxes for cats. They came here to talk about Tales of the Jedi, The Dark Path, Count Dooku. Trey, tell us, before we get into the episodes, tell us what you find compelling about Count Dooku so much that you bought a lightsaber and that you proudly profess your admiration for the Count of Sereno.
Well, I think Dooku, in a lot of ways, is everything we love about Anakin. He just comes one, I guess, apprentice before Anakin in terms of like Palpatine's plan. Like he's a Jedi that falls. He's a Jedi that I think has a good heart, but doesn't agree with sort of the rules of the Jedi and the dogmatic nature of it. And he is kind of seduced by the dark side. And that's like a lot of the same reasons why I think people like Anakin. I like Anakin, but Dooku also just like, I guess he has some more mystery behind him. I know we've gotten Dooku Jedi Lost, and that was a really good book and enjoyed that a lot. But besides like seeing him as a Sith, like, he's an older gentleman. There's a lot of story behind him that you didn't really know. And I think that's why when I saw Tales of the Jedi, I love Ahsoka. Ahsoka is probably my favorite character, Ahsoka and Ezra. But like I've seen a lot of her story already, and I haven't seen a lot of Dooku's. And that new and getting into new things in Star Wars is what's really interesting to me. Like we get a little bit of pre-Phantom Menace in this, which we never get ever, except for like the High Republic, which is great, but that's those are in books. So it was cool to see that sort of thing in this. But yeah, honestly, his lightsaber is just so cool that I think you like the lightsaber and then you kind of build your fascination around the character. But his speech to Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones is something that the older I get, the more I'm like, wow, this is a really interesting moment. I think George really tried to make this sort of a parallel to Empire Strikes Back with Vader and Luke saying like, hey, join me and we can overthrow the same guy and make something better. And I kind of believe Dooku because I don't think he really wanted to be Palpatine's apprentice the whole time. I just think he was using Palpatine, same way Palpatine was using him. So I feel like there's a lot there that's hasn't been spoken, hasn't been told about Dooku. And I just love seeing more of this with him.
Danny, what did you think of Count Dooku? Because I know you've also been like have a problematic relationship with the Attack of the Clones.
I had a problematic relationship with the prequels originally because I did fall into the trap that we hated it because I did grow up with the originals. So Yeah, I was the hater of the prequels for a long time. And Count Dooku to me was problematic in the sense that there was such a huge plot hole for me that it's like the rule of two, and then but we have Darth Maul and then we have Darth Tyrannus, and how were they at the same time? And it was complicated for me. And so much of it got explained now with Tales of the Jedi. And so much of the source of how he became who he was made so much sense now. And it makes me appreciate the character even more now, because he was incredibly interesting to begin with. Christopher Lee, masterful, obviously, and but it works so much more, that scene when Palpatine tells Anakin to execute him. Seeing now when he executes Yaddle and everything, that it just brings everything together. I mean, when I finished watching those episodes, I was like, what did I just watch? This, wow. It's so, I don't know. I'm still kind of, because I watched them again this morning, and I was like, I at a loss for words, honestly. I still have to digest everything that happened. And it's so concise. Like, it's short episodes, but you get so much story.
Exactly.
And you get, like you were saying, you get pre-Phantom Menace, you get during Phantom Menace, you get Qui-Gon Jinn at different stages of his life as well. I mean, it's
my
so
boy
much.
Qui-Gon. Oh,
Qui-Gon is also, I would say, one of my favorite characters.
Oh yeah.
So like that whole family tree is just so interesting.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because I think the interesting thing about like how Filoni, because I've heard some friends say that Filoni's a talentless hack. However, I think that he has done some interesting things. Obviously with Rebels and whatnot. But Tales of the Jedi, I think, is really beautiful how it's structured by pairing up Ahsoka and Dooku, because they're both, they're both people that reject the Jedi Order. They're both people that like want to fight against the status quo. But I do like that symmetry of like how the decisions you're making during your path kind of determine the outcome of like if you're like in a righteous path or a corrupted one. And I think Dooku's journey is really interesting because you see the righteousness. You see that he's actually does that the separatist movement and the Confederacy is the right move in terms of like deposing the Republic for the needs of the people.
Corruption.
And that first episode, but the difference with Ahsoka, because I mean Ahsoka's fighting the Empire as well, and she sees the injustices and whatnot, but she this doesn't make a deal with the devil, basically. And I think that was Dooku's downfall, that he saw no other way to do it than to make literally, I mean, a Palpatine is the devil. So it's just like that was Dooku's downfall, because maybe if he had stuck around with Qui-Gon a little more, Qui-Gon would have been like, bro, come on, that's not cool. And maybe they could have worked a different path forward. But especially with, like you were saying, like, how concise the episodes were, I think really serves to strengthen how the story is told, because you just get the distilled elements and just like, the story beats that you just need to get from point A to point B. And point A being obviously the beginning of Tales of the Jedi, and point B being Revenge of the Sith. Because I think it just ties that arc beautifully, I think. Because
I know.
Yeah, Dooku's face when he's betrayed by Palpy on top of
what?
Palpatine.
This wasn't part of the plan.
It's just like, whoa, are you doing to me what told me to do to Yaddle? Like and I did to Cypher.
And it was this and it was this whole I should have seen this coming kind of look, like should have seen this coming. Okay.
He was like, I thought I was different. I thought I was different. It's like, no, you're not different.
You told me I wasn't like all your other girls.
Right. Exactly. I thought I was special.
Yeah.
None of them were. But so that's Dooku, obviously. Let's go into like the meat and potatoes though of the episode. Trey, what do you think of like the episodes themselves? Like, which one do you think there was like a highlight episode for you, or do you think that they're both kind of like an equal standing of like storytelling, or or was one worse than the other or better than the other? What did you think of the trilogy?
Well, I think the first one is probably my favorite because I get Dooku as a Jedi, sort of being a Jedi, and like I've said this before about this specific episode, but it almost reminds me of season 2 of The Mandalorian, the Ahsoka episode, where like you get the Din going to a planet that's like burnt down. You get him walking into a village where people are like hiding behind the doors to sort of find someone who's like oppressing them. And I thought that was kind of cool. Also, just before I get into this, I haven't heard anyone talk about this. Is Dooku's ship the same ship Ahsoka has at the end of Rebels?
I don't think it's the same one, but I think it's a similar model.
Yeah, it's like looks the exact same. I'm like, wait, what the heck? Especially because those are the two characters in Tales of the Jedi. I'm like,
I think I read that Ahsoka is going to be flying that ship in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think not so this too. One Dooku was, but like the same one that she was in Rebels.
But yeah, so that first episode, seeing him go there to get back the senator's son, and then sort of calling an audible and being like, actually, I'm not going to do what the Jedi told me to do. I'm going to do what actually helps these people the most. And that's like helping who's oppressing them, and who is oppressing them is a government leader that works for the Senate, that works for the Republic. And like this, the idea that the Jedi work for the Senate, I think really pisses him off and really pisses off other Jedi, like Anakin. He's like, this isn't, we shouldn't take our orders from them. We should take our orders from the people. And I loved seeing that in Dooku. Obviously, he goes a little crazy, force chokes the guy almost to death. Maybe don't do that.
Maybe don't do that.
You can do it in different ways, but I think that first episode was when he didn't have a beard yet, was the one that I thought was the best. 2 I didn't think was as good, and then 3 was really good but sad.
Yeah.
I think I agree with that. Manny, what about you? Do you what's your ranking of the episodes? Wish I hate that. Actually, the older the more I've been spending time on fandom, the
more we do it, the more we hate it.
Because it's just like, it's such a reductive way to like look at stuff. But whatever. Sometimes you need to do it. But anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah. I think I will actually agree. I think it would be Justice for me first, Sith Lord second, and then Choices as the least good of them. Because I think the second episode was kind of trying to do the same thing that the first one already did so successfully, just kind of driving the point home again, which is fine in a different era with now Mace Windu instead of Qui-Gon. But it was so well done with that first episode that I didn't need to see it again.
Right.
In that
second
one.
That's a good way to put it.
And that first one, I mean, that how you were saying, Trey, that he's so pissed off you serve under the Senate, and he's no, I serve the people of the Republic, not the Senate. And for him to
accept cheering.
That,
it's like,
it's like, yes, you're right. And that's finally what the Jedi should be. Yeah. The Jedi should not just be the council. It should not just serve at the bequest of the Senate. It shouldn't take the Senate, what the Senate says as law, because clearly the Senate has stopped working. And you are a body of wise people, supposedly, and you should not be like under their boot. And again, probably not the best choice to start, choking people, to get your
bad luck. Yeah.
And like you were saying, I mean, there was such a huge opportunity with Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon was also not a fan of what was happening in the Jedi Council. Like, he refused to become a member of the council. And it's so sad when you see that actual conversation with Palpatine that's like, Qui-Gon didn't need to die. And that should have been a trigger for him, that
red flags.
Like, you have a decent philosophy, you have a better way of doing things, but you killed my prodigy who had similar feelings to us. That should have been like, nope, I'm done, I'm going my separate path, which is what's so heartbreaking, because at that point it's like, I'm so committed that everything I've done is going to be worthless if I don't continue the path. And it's just, it's heartbreaking.
then Palpatine kind of gaslights him. He's like, I lost a Padawan too. What are you talking about? Like we both suffered here. It's like, I don't think your connection to Maul was the same.
No, not even remotely
That
close.
Qui-Gon. Oh my God.
Yeah. But I agree with a lot that's been said. Like I do, for me, it was interesting that second episode with Mace, because like I was surprised by Mace's little dick energy, like with the whole.
You were surprised by Mace's little dick energy?
Yeah,
I feel like that
really
defines the character.
Oh,
yeah,
I think
that was so Mace.
That
was
Citizen.
so Mace.
I thought
Mace frustrates me to no end.
Just a little bitch and being like, oh, well, the council said, sir. I was like,
according to the council,
council.
bylaw section 3.
Well, star, come on. And it's like, okay, no BMF here, and so like, which I guess, I mean, obviously it's purposeful. It's gonna see like the dichotomy, between Dooku and Mace, but definitely agree that the first and third are the best ones. And I think for me, the best things about them are the relationships with him and Qui-Gon, because those things hit home because, Qui-Gon's my boy. Even when I saw Phantom Menace for the first time and I didn't even understand philosophy or anything, every time Qui-Gon said anything, I was like, I don't know what that means, but that sounds dope. And now I'm just like, yep, it was.
Qui-Gon knew it.
Qui-Gon knew what was up and gone too soon. So every time I get more Qui-Gon content, this has been the year for Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon's big comeback.
Coming back. I just want a spin-off series, animated. What else? Give me more Qui-Gon.
Yeah, I think one of my takeaways from Tales of the Jedi is, so I guess before that, even like animation is my favorite way to consume Star Wars. Like I think animated Star Wars is like the best Star Wars. So I would love them like seeing Dooku and Qui-Gon. I loved it, but I don't feel like we got enough. It was just like it was a little taste because Qui-Gon really didn't do much. Like we didn't get any of his opinions. It was just like, okay, go get the Senator's son to save Dooku from killing this guy. But like having an animated movie set like in this era between Dooku and Qui-Gon, I think that's like something that after seeing this, I'm like, oh, I need that. Because live action movies like with characters who an actor, like a different actress played them, I think is more difficult than doing animation. And I just think the way Star Wars works with like the fantastical elements and like crazy planets and crazy aliens, it just looks better in animation. So I'm dying for like more, like anything pre-Phantom Menace and in animation is just like a golden spot for me. That would be great.
I 100% agree. I think that it's an untapped mine that there's for storytelling that if we only delved into it. Oh my God, we'll get a Balrog, but like a Balrog of goodness, and we go and delve into those mines. But I agree. I think what would be cool, honestly, like based on that, is just have like a series that's just maybe we steal Claudia Gray's title, just call it Master and Apprentice, and it's just a bunch of like arcs of like Dooku and Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and
Yoda and Dooku,
Luke and Ben,
Yoda and Dooku,
and like do like all those relationships to see like how all those teachings have been passed on, right? And it could be amazing, and we can obviously get around the fact that Liam Neeson is wonderful, and I'm glad he came back for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I think he's aged out.
He got the bag.
Yeah,
that was why he came back. He got money.
Yep.
That he was. I remember we were when he was saying like, "Oh, I would
never
do show.
I would do TV."
And I was just like, my dude, I was just at Celebration where there was announced that you were reprising your voice role. So if you can do an animated series, you're definitely in that Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Shut up! Don't lie to me.
Had to be. That's part of the reason too why like I would like to see more like a second season of Kenobi, just to see like that kind of just the conversations that Qui-Gon and Ben have. Like just that in itself is enough for me.
I just got shivers down my spine thinking about that.
Nice.
They should do it as YouTube shorts or something, whatever. Just like a little count. Obi and Qui-Gon, just little conversation spots.
Talking about the Force.
Beautiful. But that whole scene, like in that first episode, when Dooku just tells Qui-Gon, "You're a much wiser man than I, Qui-Gon." I was just like, "Oh, that's what he said to Obi-Wan."
I know.
Like those callbacks are always like so amazing. It's just like, again, it's one of those things that only happens in animation, because like as much as I love the sequel trilogy, I think that some of the faults that it had is just that it didn't connect to like the prequels and didn't build worlds that seemed as like as exotic as the prequels did, because in the whole effort to pare things down and make it more palatable to the original trilogy fans, I think that the world suffered because of it. I don't know if you agree with this, because I mean, you were just saying how in animation we can have like bigger worlds and like stranger worlds that are feel more alien, exotic. But I think the reason that we've gotten those in animation is because George already started those in the prequels, like Umbara and a bunch of like those really exotic planets started in the prequels, and they're just like heightened locales that I think we could have kept going with the sequels. But like the sequels were just like, okay, well now we're just gonna do Earth locations.
Back to Tatooine.
Back to No, we're going back to Jakku. But we started like losing like all the like alien exoticness of planets in the sequels for for nostalgia's sake, I guess. And I think that's the reason. I think that maybe there's some lackluster locales, but I mean that's besides the point. Went on a tangent on that one.
I saw a tweet yesterday, and it was from someone who's like pretty big on Star Wars Twitter, and he was saying how he doesn't care about the alien species. He just wants more humans in Star Wars.
Oh, I like, saw it.
This smells a little racist. I feel like there's something more behind what you're saying. Like, no, aliens make Star Wars cool.
I saw that.
Can you imagine not having Plo Koon? Like, come on.
I'm not gonna say who. Yeah, I saw that. And I was just like, bad look, really bad look.
That's gotta be racist.
Really suspicious.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I saw one. I don't know if you saw this one too, but I saw someone say, which was it? Like 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. On the 7th Andor episode, when Andor gets racially profiled and gets arrested for no reason by the shore trooper at the end of that episode, I saw someone on Twitter say like, "Oh, you can't racially profile in Star Wars unless it's just an alien." And it's just like, my dude, that is just a media illiteracy.
Sounds about white.
Yeah. Oh, it was 100% white person. And I was just like, that is some media illiteracy right there, to just have the audacity to say that with confidence. That's
Twitter's a wild place.
Yeah.
Wretched hive.
It's a wretched hive of scum and villainy. But particularly scum.
Scum.
But whatever. Those people know who they are. But third episode, also beautiful. Like, I wish that we could have seen more of like that dynamic between Qui-Gon, because I would love to know because at this point we know that Dooku isn't part of the Jedi Order anymore, so he's there, just strolling around because he's welcome at the temple. So it would be nice to,
I mean, but how cool was it to see him like eliminating Camino from the archives and the whole, I mean, it just
amazing. Although I was thinking that the security measures at the Jedi at the
are kind of horrible.
Are not that. I'm just like, wait, you could just go in and just fucking delete.
Yeah.
Too much trust. The Jedi trust.
I guess I feel like it's just like me deleting a Word document from my computer. That's that easy. All you need is a password. It's like, okay, Sifo Dyas. And that's another security breach. You think that Sifo Dyas is gone? Let's restrict his password.
Right.
But whatever, it's fine. It's
maybe remove his credentials.
Right. Like override it or have some security.
Eliminate
be like, whoa.
access. Yeah, this person is missing. So
they're quite literally save the galaxy, but I mean, okay.
Right. It's like their IT department, some nerd being like, whoa, Sifo Dyas showed up at the council.
Costa was not up on security protocols.
No, she was too busy polishing her lightsaber with shotgun or whatever.
Yeah.
And
lightsaber shotgun. It's a great term.
That was badass. Like, some people saying that weapon was stupid. I'm just like, that weapon is awesome.
She was dope in the Vader comic.
Yeah.
When she was fighting him, I'm like, whoa, this is kind of sick. Doesn't have a chance, but this is cool.
Still legit. Yep.
Yeah.
She held her own with her lightsaber shit.
Yeah.
But speaking of people that couldn't hold their own, we can't talk about that last episode without talking about my homegirl, my new favorite, Yoda, Yaddle. Never ever did I ever think or suspect that I would give a shit about Yaddle, because to me she was always a background character in episode 1. and I knew because I love watching like behind the scenes things. I knew that she was just a reject Yoda puppet that they just slapped a wig on and just like, okay, fucking this new shit.
It's the best Star Wars stuff though. It's just like
True.
You just get like random
An
background
afterthought,
characters in
yeah.
Phantom Menace. They've become like, you know,
mythic now, yeah. Which like for me was one of the most mind-blowing things now, being on the internet and seeing everyone being like, oh, for years people have wondered what happened to Yaddle, and it's like, really? I didn't. I'm just like, she's not there. She's pieced out.
They all died. She's one of them.
It's like I never wondered for 2 seconds. But I'm glad that that Filoni made me care about Yaddle, because
Filoni and Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah. Well, how amazing was her performance? Like
I've seen people thirsting over Yaddle, which is a sentence I've never thought I would speak, but that's the power of Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh Lord. Well, I did. I don't know if these were like honest takes to be, but I did see some people saying, well, maybe we don't see Yaddle anymore because she had to abandon the Jedi Order because she was carrying the love child between her and Yoda, and that turns out to be Grogu. So that's why she had. It's like, really?
Baby Yoda's actually Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda is actually Baby Yoda's, and I was just like, that's the dumbest thing. It's just like, just because they're the same species, don't mean that they don't bone. I mean, maybe they did. Who knows? But I don't know.
Yoda has some explaining to do about like emotional connection if he and Yaddle were boning.
And like she would have to leave the council and he didn't, because then it's just sexism too. It's just like, oh, so the woman has to pay the price even though you're the one that knocked her up. It's like, not a good look, Yoda. Not a good look.
That's just the whole Star Wars prequels. Not a good look, Yoda. This is not a good look. Except for his battle against Dooku. That was cool.
It was interesting. I'm still on the fence about that battle because I do feel that Yoda shouldn't. I'm still on the camp that he shouldn't use a lightsaber.
I completely agree with that.
It could be the Force. Yeah.
It's just visually it looked cool, but like the ideology behind it is like, this guy says like, you know, all these little riddles, which also the Yaddle aspect of this makes us be like, why the hell does Yoda talk the way he does if Yaddle speaks normally? Is this guy just like, did he get dropped like when he was like 200 years old and he's just like, his speech patterns are a little different now?
A little different.
Or is he just being a dick on purpose?
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Honestly, I kind of love that.
I would prefer that explanation, honestly, because it just lines up. It's like Empire Strikes Back Yoda, he's just like trolling Luke all the time. So why wouldn't
eating his stuff, whacking his droid with his stick?
I just imagine one day he just started talking that way to see how people would react, and he saw people being like, and not correct.
Everyone who didn't know how he talked probably died because he's 900 years old. So he's just like, there's no evidence of me speaking the way I used to.
He's like, well, now I have to keep going because like now I'm committed to the bit.
He was doing a bit.
He's committed to the bit, and he literally to his dying breath on his bit. And actually, that's something I do appreciate that the episode did. Yoda didn't have a speaking part, which I think was a respectful thing to do to Tom Kane, since he, he had like that stroke and is not able to perform the character. I think it was an honorable way to have Yoda in the show, but without having to recast him
either. But
and my boy Ki-Adi-Mundi, like, he looks horrible in that fucking robe. I was just like, that goddamn conehead. I was like,
so easy to tell who he is from behind when he has the hood up.
I was just like, some people should not. I mean, it's a free galaxy at that point, so they can wear whatever robes they want. But I was just like, some people should be forbidden from wearing robes, and my boy Ki-Adi-Mundi should be one of those, because I was just like, you look dumb, my friend. Just embrace the conehead. Just like, I love Ki-Adi-Mundi. Like, he'll be like one of those like Jedi that I would always use, like in one of the games from the early 2000s.
Oh, the original Battlefront 2. Oh
yeah. I was
in one Mos Eisley, Heroes vs Villains.
Oh my god, that was such a night. Oh yeah, that was awesome.
The loading screen I can just see in my so good.
I loved it. And let's speak about that. I know we're talking about Dooku, but now that you mentioned Battlefront, I need to get this off my chest. All these people that like criticize Battlefront, the new Battlefront 2, in favor of the old Battlefront 2 are insane. I'm not saying that the original Battlefront 2 is bad. By no means is it bad. It's wonderful. But like, people are like, oh, it had so many more units and Jedi. In the back of my mind, I'm like, yes, it did, but they're all exactly the same. Every single Jedi had all the same moves except Darth Maul, obviously. And if they had done the exact same thing in this new Battlefront 2, people would riot. It's just like, we have a 10,000 Jedi, but they all have the same moves. So it's just like, which is it, man? Do you want a game that's developed with detail and has like characters that stand on their own and have like their own special moves and combos, or do you just want like a copy paste thing like Battlefront 2? I don't know.
I could go on for hours about 2017's Battlefront 2 because that is like probably my favorite Star Wars game ever. If that game, the way it was in 2019, if it released that way, completely different perception, completely different. Like, I will say the original Battlefront 2 story I think was really cool, and I liked it more than this one. I thought Aiden's turn was kind of like, I was looking forward to seeing her like playing as the Empire the whole time. But no, I love Battlefront 2. It is still beautiful to this day. Hero Showdown is a game mode I love. Just 2v2, like when you beat someone in Hero Showdown, it's like Daredevil season 3. I beat you, and it's so satisfying. And it's a beautiful game too. Like Crate, oh my god,
amazing.
Gorgeous,
amazing. Oh my god, I love that game. I haven't played it in a minute. I haven't played video games since I got the PlayStation 5, which is counterintuitive. But
I just got one.
Maybe hopefully you play it because I
played Battlefront 2
and I stopped playing.
Yeah,
we'll trade PSNs later. But I was so sad that day that they stopped service for the game. I was just like, come on, we were supposed to get Ahsoka and Ventress, and then you just
they were in the files. Sad.
Oh well, Nani, you should get that game. You should get it. You would. I think you would enjoy.
Probably like $1 at GameStop or whatever. Actually, it'll probably be $60 at GameStop, knowing GameStop.
No. You gotta get because you guys got the PS5, right?
We finally got a PS5, recently.
What games do you have for that right now?
No, we just had like the second of Event Horizon, and Ragnarok is coming out next
That's
week.
coming, yeah.
So,
it's gonna be a good one.
Ragnarok's gonna be a thing, and we replayed Ghost of Tsushima recently too. It was so good, and
that'll be an awesome thing if they did. I've said it for like Ronin, but if they did like a Ghost of Tsushima style game for Dooku or Ahsoka or something like that, that'll be
Star Wars with lightsabers instead of
samurai video game with Dooku. Oh, on. It's there. Look, come on.
It's there. It's so there.
Lucasfilm, I know you listen to this podcast. We have so many ideas that we're hurling your way. Just do one of them and give us some royalties.
I do love that even, when Dooku was a Jedi, it's still, the dark outfits, the cape, the whole ambiance. Like I
was watching with my girlfriend and she was like, he is so much like Separatist Snape. And I was like, yeah, actually, now I can completely see that. I think they're very similar.
I hadn't thought about that, but
interesting.
Yeah,
the way they talk is very similar.
Yeah, I can see that. That would have been interesting if Alan Rickman were still alive. Have him play a younger version of Dooku while training Qui-Gon Jinn. Amazing. If we were to have like a continuation of Tales of the Jedi, I know like a lot of people have been talking about who would be the next pairing of Jedi, and fine question, but I'm gonna think about it differently. If we were to continue the Dooku story and like have another 3 episodes of his backstory, what things would you like to see from it? Would you like to go further into the past? Would you like to see him like what he's doing with the separatist? Like, what are the 3 stories you would like to see from a second Tales of the Jedi from Count Dooku? Trey, what do you think?
I mean, I think these characters probably aren't going to be used for a while, but something like a year or 2 right after The Rise of Skywalker with Rey and Finn would have a lot of my interest. Or if, let's say Finn, that story isn't, maybe he's not going to become a Jedi. Rey and anyone, like just sort of anything with Rey, I find really interesting. I know it's kind of an obvious answer, but anything with Luke and Ben animated, I find really interesting, really cool. And then I would like them to go back, they can go back 20,000, 50,000 years and just do like a completely new character Just do like a three episode arc, Padawan and apprentice, or sorry, master and apprentice, and just like tell a completely new story with new characters on new planets that like you don't have any restrictions on, because like that era, there's no like canon anything from it, basically. Not even like Old Republic, like it could be further behind the Old Republic or whenever. I think that's why I liked Vision so much, is because it didn't necessarily tie into anything. And like, I know it's not considered canon, but I don't care. The stories were just so cool, and like Ninth Jedi and, you know, that sort of thing. The Village Bride, just so cool. And I would love to see more Star Wars like told like that.
Not restricted by everything that has already been written.
Because it doesn't have to be during 1 through 9.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the timeline one, and it doesn't necessarily have to be any of the planets that we already know. I mean, it's a huge galaxy. It's still storytelling, and you know, you keep it in the galaxy far, far away, but there's so much things that you can explore. But if we were going to continue with like Dooku's story, I think you said it too, Trey. I would love to see him with Yoda. As Yoda's Padawan, and how that relationship happened.
A lot of friction, I would imagine.
I feel like it would. I would obviously love to see more of him with Qui-Gon as well, or how that first meeting with Palpatine happened. Because clearly he was already involved before we actually see him. I remember when we were watching it, and you see that scene when he's erasing, you know, the archives and everything, and thinking, wait, is because he's still at this point with the Jedis. Did he just come up with this on his own? Is he already talking to Palpatine? Like, where are we exactly? And then obviously you get the meeting, which was fantastic. And
and it's Ian McDermott back as a Palpy. And I was like, thank you.
The music was really good in these too. I thought the music was really added a lot to like the stuff when Coruscant and in the first episode too.
Kudos to Kevin Kiner, the Kiner brothers. Like on that.
I wasn't sure who did it, so it is Kevin Kiner.
Cool. That's like cool. And like I know we're not talking about the Ahsoka episodes, but like I love the music in the Ahsoka episodes. They just went like left field and just doing like Japanese style drumming and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, please keep these men composing for Star Wars, because he's
great. I would love him to get like a live action Star Wars anything
project.
He's been amazing. But I think Nani, to your point, I think those stories, continuing Dooku's stories with those master apprentice relationships would be really, really interesting. Obviously, Master Yoda and Dooku is quite the obvious one, but I think it would be interesting to see him like in this post like Attack of the Clones, and like see episodes of him with Ventress, see like how he deals.
I will never say no to more Ventress.
And then the
always more Saj. I'm good with that.
And with Palpy, I think the interesting thing with Palpy is like see like how that master apprentice relationship goes.
That power dynamic there, because he was already a Jedi master, and then now
exactly because that's one of the things that I've always been curious about. It's just like, well, like what I mean, you're already a pro, right? You're already playing in the big leagues. You're a master of the Jedi arts, and now you're gonna be apprentice to someone who's probably the same age as you. So like, how does that relationship work out? What are you really learning from Palpy? Like, are you really an apprentice, or are you just like co-workers? I really want to see more of that, because we haven't really, or correct me if I'm wrong, maybe we have seen it like in books or something, but I haven't seen like what.
I don't consume everything, so I don't know.
I would love also like a Tales of the Sith show, like a kind of companion piece where you get. I love Darth Bane. I always am trying to get more Darth Bane stuff. I love his Legends books, so anything with him, or even like Palpatine with Plagueis. And even going back to like more Tales of Jedi, I would love to see who Yoda's master was. Like, I would love a young Yoda too. I think that could be really cool.
Yoda as a Grogu-sized Yoda.
Oh, he's like, he's like small Groot at that time, but
and maybe before he was dropped and started speaking in riddles.
And they say he's speaking at this point.
Talking like Snoop Dogg.
He always talk weird. It's just like, how weird was it? Yeah, that would be awesome, because we don't know that, right? I mean, it's 900 years. Well, not 900, probably like 850 years ago. that he
knows,
was. That would be.
There's
that
so
would be
much
dope.
of Star Wars, so many cool eras and things that you can explore, and I'm just so excited for hopefully sometime in the future that we can see new things. And yeah,
What era? So I mean, we've been talking about the past, but how about like the super duper future? Like, would you like? We've been talking
Yeah.
about thousands
Yeah.
of years in the past. What about thousands of years into the future? What does
Future,
that look
yeah.
like? That would be interesting too, because I know there were like the Dark Horse comics. They did like I forgot the name of that series. I do know that they did some comics that were like way into the future with Luke's descendants, and it was just like some
oh wow,
drunk guy out of his mind, and the Force.
that
goes
sounds
to them.
like Dune.
Not as good from what I've
Yeah.
gathered from that series, but something like that could be interesting. But yeah, definitely detached from all these legacy characters, I think is like the appropriate way to go, because I think that's part of the success of Andor. It's like, okay, it's still in the galactic civil war, but we're not connecting to like the main players of this.
Yeah,
I mean, you can make the argument that sure, Mon Mothma's there, but really Mon Mothma a main
it's a
player.
very
She was,
loose.
yeah, she was
Yeah.
in Return of the Jedi
Mhm.
for all of 2 minutes. So maybe so.
Yeah.
She's a glorified cameo in Return of the Jedi. Sorry. But
Sorry, not sorry.
sorry, not sorry. It's true.
Mhm.
So Andor
It's the
kind of like
truth.
detaching himself from all that thing makes it exciting because it's fresh. It's just like, okay, well, what's happening? There's more stakes to it. And I think doing that, going to the past for the future and like bringing in a whole slew of characters, which is to an extent what High Republic is doing, but there's still Yoda in it.
It's not. It's still like 200 years from from Phantom Menace. It's not like I
Still
would
too
love something
close,
like
yeah.
5,000 years or
Yeah.
just way
like
way
really detached.
past.
when
Yeah.
when
Mhm.
lightsabers had the battery packs and you had to like connect them to
It's like a charging cable.
yeah, it's just like
You
oh,
you have to
Ideal.
plug them in.
really good. Oh my
Mhm.
god, that's an interesting concept, not the best of visuals. It's just like oh, yeah, got the power cord.
Lightsabers need extension cords.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. But anyway, I mean, I think this has been like an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Trey, for like joining us to talk about not just Count Dooku, but Battlefront 2, showing us your Count Dooku lightsaber.
All my favorite things.
And all
Yes.
all the good stuff and reminiscing about the good times had at Celebration. But before we get going, why don't you tell people where they can find you and find your podcast?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at the Traynator. I also have a movie podcast that I do every week.
Oh, that's cool.
Been really enjoying that one. That one is on Twitter. It's at 5280 Cinema. It's called Mile High Cinema. Just like a weekly movie podcast, and do a lot of stuff. I think this week I'm going to be talking about The Barbarian in a movie called The Triangle of Sadness that I just saw. That was very funny. It was a lot like White Lotus season 1. If
Really?
anyone's seen that, yeah,
Yeah.
it's out right now. Woody Harrelson's in it. I guess he's like the lead, but he's
Love
not.
Woody Harrelson.
I don't know. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing. I think my Star Wars podcast, I think the Twitter handle is at Skywalking TL. But yeah, that's me. And thank you so much for having me. I always have
We will
time to
leave
talk
links.
about Dooku and Battlefront 2 and
Yes.
everything.
Yeah, no,
All the
we'll-
goodies.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
trade PSN handle so we can be also friends on the PlayStation Network.
Nice.
And like Nani said, we'll leave links to all those things down in the description below. So please make sure to follow Trey. Awesome guy and with awesome content. So please make sure to follow him.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
But with that, I think we've reached the end of our show. Nani, why don't you sign us off as only you know how to do?
We are Triad of the Force. You can find us whenever that podcast can be found. Just search Triad of the Force. You will find us. We have some cool t-shirts. You can get some of those too. We hope
Until
that you're
Disney
enjoying
takes them down.
until Disney takes them down. Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope you're enjoying Tales of the Jedi. We only talked about half of it so far. We're going to be talking about Ahsoka as well. We hope that you're enjoying Andor. Everything else that's coming, we're getting some Bad Batch. So much good Star Wars
So much
to
good
come.
stuff.
So leave a comment, like, subscribe, and until next time, may the Force be with you.